I am so sick of seeing my Ryzen 3700X completely pegged out at 100% while editing and animating my videos. So what do? How do I fix this? Get a 3900X, a 5950X, or take the jump to a newer AM5 system, maybe even Threadripper? Well, the problem with that is I would need a new motherboard and power supply and potentially even RAM. So what do? Well, I had a much bigger, much cheaper idea. Actually, two ideas. Two ideas with about 20 smaller ideas each. And technically each of those smaller ideas can have a little idea of its own if you really want to get pedantic about it, but either way, this giant idea is actually too giant for this set. But thanks to today's sponsor, FlexiSpot, I was able to actually lower my desk to fit this giant idea. I was recently hit by a car. I was also in a car at the same time of this incident, but typically you actually get more sympathy when you phrase it like that, so it kind of works out. Either way, I did get a little bit of an injury with some fun things that come with that. And building computers while filming, standing over my set has been hurting my back and neck a decent amount. So I want to give a huge thanks to FlexiSpot for not only providing this absolutely beautiful bamboo E6 standing desk and upgraded OC6 chair, but for also sponsoring this video. The dual motor E6 standing desk is extremely durable and able to withstand impacts of 325 pounds, which is great for how often I tend to drop anything I touch. This is crazy, and even crazier is the motors are so strong you can actually sit on the desk while it raises and lowers, and it's not jerky either. It's still a smooth upward and downward motion. Really impressive and kind of fun. It also comes with wheels that make it easier to move it around, so even I can move it around without hurting myself even further. And also a 15-year warranty. That is insane. Like, actually, almost nothing comes with a warranty that long. It's also really pretty. I mean, look how great this thing looks for filming. FlexiSpot has also launched a new ergonomic chair offering an extended 10-year warranty leveraging the same high-quality mesh material as the OC6. FlexiSpot's chair can withstand weights up to 500 pounds while providing excellent lumbar support. And not only is it extremely comfortable, but it also features adjustable Y-shaped lumbar support. And most importantly for me, it serves as a great alternative to the pricier Steelcase gesture chair, costing less than a quarter of the gesture's price, with a weight capacity actually exceeding the gesture's 400 pounds. They're also both extremely easy to put together, which is important for someone like me who requires close moderation to avoid hurting myself. If I can put this together, I truly believe that anyone could. Anyways, thank you again to FlexiSpot. This isn't part of the sponsor segment anymore, but this desk and chair has really been helping me work on videos and not be in constant pain. So I really appreciate it. Thank you again, FlexiSpot. And if you guys want to get yourself a desk or chair, use my affiliate links in the description. You get a 10% discount and I get a 10% kickback, which is pretty cool. The hardest thing about building a video editing PC is, well, it's expensive. You can't just slap any random CPU, GPU, and storage in there and have it perform well. Not only do you need really fast storage for editing, but you also need a lot of storage for holding all of those giant video files. Typically, for me personally, my videos end up being about 100 to 200 gigabytes total per video, which is a lot of storage. But storage isn't the only important thing. You also need a lot of CPU power, like a lot. The good thing about editing and animation programs, though, is typically they do support a lot of cores. They're very multi-threaded, which is great because that really opens up our options for cheap CPUs, since we're not just constrained to high single thread performance. If we were, basically the only option would be high-end Intel i9 CPUs. The last major picky part, besides RAM, just get a lot of RAM, that's fine. The graphics card. You can't typically just get a run-of-the-mill, boring, old graphics card for gaming. Well, you can, but not just any. Video editing doesn't just require pure GPU power and CUDA cores. It also requires a lot of VRAM, more than most people would typically need for games. At least the games I play. Either way, when playing a game, it's rare I'll use more than 8 gigabytes of VRAM, even at 4K. But when editing video, it's not uncommon at all for me to max out my Titan XP's 12 gigabytes of VRAM. Crashing isn't an issue though, like it was for the 8 gigabytes of VRAM I had before. So I'm not really worried about shilling hundreds of dollars for something like a Quadro with 24 gigabytes of VRAM or an RTX card with a similar amount. Right now, the 12 gigs are fine. There's our requirements: fast CPU, fast and lots of storage, lots of RAM, and a somewhat fast GPU with a lot of VRAM. Initially, my idea was to move forward with an AMD Vega Frontier Edition card because of the 16 gigabytes of HBM2 memory that they had. And then I would pair that with a dual Xeon 2698 V3 system I was going to custom build and water cool myself. Problem is, that would have been really prohibitively expensive. Yeah, that's gonna cost as much as upgrading my system to AM5. Not gonna happen. I needed something cheaper and better. After some research and getting some awesome advice from, oh man, I'm gonna pronounce it so wrong. No. I'm so sorry. Seriously though, his channel is a goldmine for Workstation CPU information. Go check him out. After some nice advice from him, I decided on this giant hunk of metal. a Dell Precision 7820, a dual Xeon scalable workstation that I got on eBay for $250 plus shipping. $250. It came with no storage, CPU, or RAM, but that's perfect. All right. So along with this big beauty, I also got two Xeon Gold 6138s. These each contain 20 cores and 40 threads, giving me a total of 40 cores and 80 threads. Oh my word. Then for about $70, I got myself 64 gigabytes of DDR4 ECC registered memory. I believe it was 2133 megahertz. One of those sticks also died, by the way. Great. Had to buy a new one, whatever. The speeds aren't great, but it probably doesn't matter or something, I don't know. Then of course the classic Titan XPP I just can't seem to get away from. Eventually I will, I promise. There is a big problem with pre-built workstations like these though, the power supply. While it is cool and easy to take out and swing around and pretend like you're more of a man than you are, you cannot easily upgrade these or get the exact power cables you want. However, these Dell Precision workstations come with two 8-pin power connectors, more than enough for most graphic solutions. And oh man, I am getting really excited for this. And before I forget, for an SSD, I got this brand new Intel 2TB P4510 U.2 SSD. I got it for $110 with a generic U.2 to PCIe adapter. And this thing is chunky. It's literally just like a block of solid aluminum. Oh my word. I got a good deal, but if you hunt, you can find them pretty decently priced. Like this one I found for $200. You can get better deals on cheap SSDs or M.2 drives, but this thing should last basically forever, and we'll see how it performs later. Now let's put this big bad boy together. The really nice thing about these workstations is there are very few screws and most things are toolless. So we can just take the side panel right off easily with this handle, and once the side panel's off, right here is the second CPU board. It holds a second CPU, obviously, and all the RAM for it. 6 DIMM slots total, along with a fan. And if we press this button and pull it out with the handle, we can see the main CPU. And both of these, like I said, support 6 DIMMs of ECC DDR4 for a total supported memory capacity of 768 gigabytes for the whole system. Oh my god. Below this, we have a separator to divide the area with the RAM and CPUs and our PCIe expansion area with up to 5 PCIe 16X slots. Oh my word. Not all of these can push a full 75 watts of power though, which isn't a problem for me taking my XPP and ramming it in here. The nice thing too is since this area is separated with its own fans, you should, in theory, be able to throw a passively cooled accelerator card in here. But I haven't been able to properly test this yet though, so don't rely on that. Don't ever rely on anything I say. I'm very stupid. Assembling this takes about 5 minutes though. Drop the CPUs in with Intel's weird mounting system for these chips, screw on the cooler, and put in the RAM. Then just lower the board with the second CPU on it in and lock it in with the handle there. After this, mount the CPU, fan, and RAM. Then for the GPU, no crazy janky SATA to VGA cables, lose all your data, or whatever the saying goes. Just plug it right in. Oh, and for storage, that's simple. If you're using a SATA drive, this actually has drive bays you can throw your drives right into. Or if you want to M.2 drives, as far as I'm aware, you need to get a PCIe adapter like this for them. Not a big deal. They're like $15 tops. And of course, after I bought all of this and set it up, I found out you can buy a U.2 backplane for a pretty reasonably cheap price if you want to go all U.2. Anyways, continue with my original plan that had less forethought. Once you have that adapter, it's just a matter of plugging it into an empty PCIe slot, and we're done. That was kind of anticlimactic. This is probably one of the easiest pre-built systems I've ever had to build out, since we have all the power we need for everything and it doesn't have any weird restrictions, at least any that I personally managed to hit. That's not all. This is a whole new editing workstation for a whole new setup, so I need more than just a new standing desk and a nice chair. I went ahead and got an Asus ProArt 4K display for my main editing monitor, which didn't really work out that great. So while I try and find another one for a good price, I have this old Samsung business monitor. I got it for $130, and I mean, it's 4K, turns on, can read, good to go. Then, to go with that, I got myself a Logitech G305 wireless mouse because it was cheap, and I don't need a wired mouse for editing video. And a Keychron C3 Pro with brown switches. My reasoning for this was that it was $32 including tax, so that's kind of cheap. And I like cheap. This is actually a great keyboard for the price though, and I am really shocked by just how freaking amazing this thing is. If you want to get any of this stuff, affiliate links, blah, 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 whatever. With that though, we can go back to the workstation. Getting everything set up was pretty easy, honestly. Dell doesn't lock these down too hard. The only problem I had is my Tesla K20 wouldn't work at all. And for some reason, when I tried to put anything in here besides the GTX 1650, it just wouldn't post at all. So after some help from the Discord, which you should totally join, by the way, I was able to figure out that the first CPU just needed to be reseated. And once I did that, it somehow fixed it. And now I can put any old regular GPU in here, besides the Tesla. I went ahead through Windows on here and it installed perfectly fine and got my testing going. But since this isn't really a gaming machine, I didn't want to test a ton of games, especially since this GPU really isn't that great nowadays, especially compared to the CPU power we've got going on here. But let's just try a few for fun. So Red Dead Redemption 2, medium, whatever, however settings work, I don't know. 1080p used a really crazy 1 to 4% CPU usage and max GPU usage. Hilarious. It got an average of 91.1 FPS with a 1% low of 52.9. About what I would expect really with this GPU, to be honest. For some reason, I also tested Minecraft, and for some reason, I tested it in 4K. I don't know. Well, it got an average of 147 FPS with a 1% low of 59. A lot better than I expected, considering how little power each core has, but you know what? I'll take it. Also, Doomer, 1080p, medium settings, that got an average of 237 FPS with a 1% low of 146. Doom really truly runs well on anything. And BeamNG, I wanted to try something different. Let's see how many cars I can get spawned in, and oh man, this is taking a little while. This is too many. It's taking an entire 20 core Xeon Gold. We're getting less than 10 FPS. Okay, 24 cars. Okay, that's not great. This is a great example though of a major issue running two CPUs. If a program is not NUMA aware or able to take advantage of both CPUs, this just kind of happens. You get one CPU completely pegged out and struggling, while the other one's just chilling, hanging out on the beach. With 12 cars though, it actually was somewhat playable. I don't know if I'd ever do this myself though. Also, Grand Theft Auto 5. Why am I testing games still? Max settings, 1080p, got a nice average of 132. This is boring. Let's just get to the fun part. After I tell you, it's very quiet under regular use. Even when you're pushing it a little, it's pretty quiet, but once you really work this to its max potential, it gets pretty loud. Now let's get into the beef and potatoes of this now. What I truly want it for, editing video. When I'm using my main PC with the Ryzen 3700X and 32 gigabytes of DDR4, maxing out my RAM and CPU is basically a daily occurrence. While regular editing, it's not super common since I use ProRes proxies and can pretty easily scrub through basic footage just fine. But once animations and color grades are added, I'm not even getting half playback speed. My CPU is absolutely pinned and it's just a horrible slideshow. I hate it. But if I were to disable proxies for whatever reason, if I just wanted to check how the original footage looks with the color grade, I don't know. It's basically a complete slideshow no matter what. Yeah, it's H.265. Yeah, I should probably transcode the footage, but shut up, this is my bad choice. So that's how it works on my previous system. What about our new beautiful dual CPU beast? Well, it's perfect. Yep, end of video. This is my Ugreen NAS video timeline, and even animations play back beautifully without any issues at all. And I mean, well, the entire video just plays back perfectly, and scrubbing is just amazing. Even if I disable proxies to see how my original footage looked, it's still really, really smooth and just eats through all of this stuff. I was a little bit worried about using a PCIe 3.1 SSD, but the random read writes are about as fast as my Sabrent Rocket 1TB NVMe drive. And it should last me basically forever, especially since it's brand new with the 5-year warranty. And if you want one for yourself, you can even get one with a U.2 adapter included for not that much more. I already did an affiliate, you know, whatever. For actual testing in Premiere, besides just how it feels test, I went ahead and exported the Ugreen video in 4K, 40 megabytes per second at 30 FPS, and it exported in just over 14 minutes. That is less than the actual length of the video itself. Oh my god. This is compared to nearly an hour it took for my Ryzen 3700X system to export this same exact video, and I had to export it 3 times. This is mostly probably due to the CPU, but I think the added RAM helps a little bit. Also, I have a GTX 1650 in here I put in for fun and forgot about. I don't know if that did anything through any of these tests. Who knows? Whatever. Also, for your weirdos that work with Blender, Blender BMW turned out a final image in 25 seconds, which is pretty insane. I think after a certain point, it doesn't really render out much faster once you have a powerful enough machine. So if you have any suggestions for a better Blender renderer, let me know in the comments. And of course, lastly, Cinebench, our whatever I've been using, I don't know, I'm tired right now, got an insane score of 27,418. That is so close to a Threadripper 2990WX, a $600 to $700 chip on the used market that requires a TR4 motherboard, which are insanely expensive. And these Xeon Golds completely eclipse a Threadripper 1950X, which sells for around $150. That is $46 more than the cost of our two Xeons. Yeah, power efficiency, whatever. TR4 boards are expensive. Okay, and this is really, really great performance. And with all these fans too, this was able to stay pretty cool, even if it sometimes got on the little loud side. The CPU stayed at about 70 degrees for the most part. Although I did notice the second CPU ran warmer than the first. I don't know. This is a cool system and I freaking love it. And I literally cannot wait another second to edit video on.